We're all living in a world gone geek. It's time to geek hard or go home. The website is fake, but the podcast is real. Here's your host, Grounded Geek.
Hello and welcome to World Gone Geek's official podcast, World Gone Geek, a podcast network disguised as a pop culture parody satire site. That's right. The website is fake, but the podcast is real. I'm your host, Jeff, aka Grounded Geek, and I am so glad you came to geek out with us for a little while. We've got some interesting stuff to talk about tonight. But first, let me introduce the illustrious panel Gone Geek. First up, one of my oldest friends. We've not been friends all that long. He's just old. I'm kidding. Seriously, hey. We go way back, but please welcome YouTube ukulelist from Utah in the Uke, Utah Shoe. Try saying that 5 times fast.
Programs. Yeah, try saying that 5 times fast. Greetings, programs. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
How's your quarantine been, Utah?
I think it's been like everybody else's, pretty quarantine-y.
Yeah. So what have you been binging? Anything you want to share with us?
So I found myself binging The Mandalorian again, mostly because Disney is releasing the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Yes.
And so every time they mention something in the behind-the-scenes, I'm like, oh, I remember what they're talking about, and I go back and watch the series again. Battlestar Galactica on Sci-Fi, because they recently did a cast reunion reading, and so they did a marathon of
the original
Battlestar
or the
Galactica.
New one?
The new one.
Okay, gotcha.
The younger one.
Yep.
And then after that, I don't know. It's just been kind of a mix. I have to admit, I did watch Joe Exotic, and I kind of feel a little dirty about that.
No, I did too. It's kind of like a train wreck. You can't look away. It's very.
You can't look away. Oh, and the Clone Wars, because it was the final season.
There you go. Absolutely. All right, and our other guest host this week on the panel from the podcast Blurred's Eye View, currently on Anchor and wherever you cast pods. Please welcome Chris G in the house. Welcome.
How you doing, Jeff?
I'm good. I'm so glad that you're here. Same question. What are you binging during the quarantine?
Actually, I am watching Clone Wars. I have watched the behind the scenes for The Mandalorian, and a show that they actually had a movie for that my wife just told me about, The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Oh, yeah. The interactive one?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
my gosh.
fun.
It's so funny. You have to watch it like several times to get all the endings.
All the endings.
It's so funny.
Watching Titus eat dirt is hilarious.
Yes. Yes, that's a great recommendation. If you haven't watched Kimmy Schmidt yet, that's definitely a good one. And there's a new interactive episode on Netflix. My binge this quarantine has been Supernatural. It was a show that I never really I watched towards the beginning, and then just I liked it, but it just, there's so many shows and we just couldn't stay with it. So this time I am on season 10, episode 19, I think now.
Nice.
So, and that's all been awesome during the quarantine.
Oh, I love that show. I love that.
Yeah, I'm having fun with it. It's very interesting. I wish I had a nickel for every time an episode or they went to commercial with this and one of the brothers looking off into the distance concernedly. That's like every episode, every commercial break. Right. It's like that ending. But anyway, it's been a lot of fun. Their meta episodes are quite hilarious. Those are the best.
Yes, those are the best.
I just finished the fan fiction one, the one with the musical.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the single man tears song.
So great.
Gosh, that was so great. And that cover of Carry On My Wayward Son at the end was hauntingly beautiful, actually. I don't know why, but I was actually moved by that. It was really cool. All right. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that show. But no, it's really great to have you guys here on our inaugural episode, or relaunch, if you will, of our podcast. It's time we get down to business, I think, with our first segment.
This week in Geek,
where we scrape through all the pop culture news of the past week. We curate it down to a few things of import, the top 5 things you should know.
Number 1.
Batwoman just finished its freshman season on the CW, even had to truncate it a bit due to the coronavirus thing, and it's already been renewed for a second season. Good news for fans of that show. But bad news, it's going to have to do so without its lead star, Ruby Rose, who has announced that she will be relinquishing the cowl and cape. There don't appear to be any hard feelings between her and producers, and she doesn't give a specific reason for leaving, but back in September, she actually went through emergency surgery due to injuries sustained during stunts that even posed paralysis risk, which is crazy. So apparently she's had spinal issues before, even as far back as January of last year. So if that's true and she has recurring problems, it's no wonder she's leaving Gotham behind. That's probably has something to do with it. But it does leave the show in an unusual situation. Casting a new lead literally as you go into your sophomore season. A show that's found success in its first season. This is a tough thing to do. So farewell to Ruby, obviously hoping the best for her. But what do you guys think about this second season recast in an industry, keep in mind, where some fans are triggered whenever any kind of change occurs to something that they love? Does this spell doom for the show, or will a new face bring new viewers? What do you guys think? We'll start with Utah. What do you think?
I don't know. I will say that I only watched a couple episodes, and of all of the CW Arrowverse group of shows, it certainly seemed compelling. I liked Ruby Rose as a casting for that. Didn't like the red wig that she had to wear, but that's a different issue. I don't know. I don't know how rabid of a fan base this show has. It is interesting that we're here coming into season 2 with having to recast it, and the showrunners did say that they are going to recast with an LGBTQ person. They were specifically looking for someone to actually represent the character like Ruby Rose did, which I find very interesting. I think that might make their search a bit more difficult. I did see that the woman from Brooklyn Nine-Nine is starting to campaign for the role, which I think is cool. I think she could do the part. I don't know.
She said she already colored her hair red last week. She said,
right.
I don't know if that's true, but
she coincidentally dyed her hair red. So I don't know. I honestly don't know how big a success the show was, relatively speaking. I do think it's an interesting twist. I think the timing works out because it's better to have to recast something or someone during the break, in between seasons. Will they? How does that affect the writing? Have they written shows for season 2 that are kind of specific to Ruby Rose, and they're going to have to rewrite some stuff? Is it going to be sort of like what they did with Doctor Who, where I feel like Peter Capaldi kind of got the short end of the stick because he was doing shows that were written for a different actor? I don't know. I'll be curious to see how it goes. I'm willing to watch it, whatever happens.
Chris, do you watch Batwoman? Have you seen that show?
I do. I watch all the CW Arrowverse show.
Cool.
This particular one, I'm still playing catch up on because of class, obviously. But I didn't have a problem with Ruby Rose herself. I think it was, and I read the same thing. I read the same article. The back issues and everything else, and is probably affecting her, and probably the long hours as well when you record it, when you do a show like that, when you're on set for hours on end. So, reading about what's her name, Stephanie Beatriz from
Yes.
Nine-Nine. Yeah, I would like to see what she brings to the table, and like you said, Utah, it's very early on. It's their freshman season, so they can actually get away with making some changes similar to what Supergirl did when it started on CBS, and then after the first season it was switched over to CW. So right. They were able to make some adjustments there. So it's good to see that they can still make that. Plus they have this Corona break, as it's being known now, and they can make those adjustments and make whatever cast changes they need to, and it probably wouldn't affect it as much. And their ratings aren't bad for a network show. I think it's like at 500,000 or something like that.
That's not bad at all for a CW.
Yeah, so that's kind of like typical. So they're not, especially since they were greenlighted for a season 2, so it can't be that bad. So yeah, that I like to see what they, if Stephanie gets the position, I like to see what she brings to the table.
I personally have not seen the show. I'm so behind on my CW shows. You see, I'm watching Supernatural finally now. Yeah. I think I'm still on still pre-Flash episodes of Arrow, so that's how far back I have fallen on CW.
Exactly. You've got a few crossovers you're going to have to.
Yeah, there's a lot to catch up on. So I am not there yet. But I thought that was interesting news, especially in this type of industry, and a fan industry where people do get a little frustrated when things change or aren't like they expect. or aren't like the comic or aren't like, whatever. But
I hope it's not like the Vivian Banks or Harriet Winslow situation
right.
where they changed the mother. They changed the mother the last couple
it's
seasons.
Strange. It's a weird thing. But hey, you know what? It didn't kill those shows at all. So
no,
it just those shows thrive. But also those weren't the featured main
they weren't the
focus lead either. Right. So this is going to be interesting to see what happens. All right.
Number 2.
So when Disney Plus first launched, one of the first things I wondered, I'm sure I'm not the only one, was whether amongst all the potential original programming Disney could produce for the streaming network was a revival of The Muppet Show in the cards. That's what I had been hoping for. Well, last year they did tease it a bit, and now officially this past week, Disney went so far as to give details and a date that the Muppets are coming back. That's right. Muppets Now will premiere July 31st, which is not now. That does not make me happy. I'm kidding. No, July 31st it's coming.
Misleading.
That's soon. And according to the synopsis, it appears to follow hapless Scooter as he tries to get streaming episodes ready to stream. By a looming deadline, of course, antics and Muppet madness aplenty ensues. So it isn't the traditional show, but it does seem to be adhering to the theme of a show within a show, right? A show about a show that's always been. So that's kind of fun. Each television revival has mimicked that same kind of structure. So this could be fun. They've left the theater stage behind for television, and now they're leaving the television behind for streaming. So it's just their Muppets are moving along with the time. It's very interesting to see that. I, for one, I'm stoked for this. I can't wait. Their last foray on television was a mixed bag that changed direction. Now, for the better, after a rough start, but it got better in that second half after they kind of regrouped. And just when it started to right the ship, that's when they canceled it. Typical. But the Muppets are back. That's the real news now. Muppets are back. It's time to start the music, Utah. It's time to light the lights. Chris, thoughts?
Actually, I'm looking forward to this. All I can say is, poor Scooter. He always seems to get the short end of the stick, right? You think it's Kermit who has to worry about everything. It's Scooter that got to take the back end too.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm waiting for it. This is something I've watched every version that they've had, and like you said, like that last incarnation he had for ABC, it was like they were trying to find their footing. And when they found it, the rug was yanked right out of them. So underneath them. So, but it's found its home. They're going somewhere special. So let's see where the lights go at this time.
I know it's going to be great. Utah, what do you think?
I agree with you guys. I'm really excited about it. I've always been a fan of the Muppets. And like you said, it's funny how they're carrying the same theme where it's a show about a show. And I like that they're kind of going along with the trends and going from the theater to a television show to now a streaming show. I'm curious to see if it's going to be the one thing about the ABC show was that it was much more of a reality show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was much more like Muppets in real life. So it wasn't all, fun, happy-go-lucky, slapsticky, lots of, funny antics and stuff. And so I'm curious to see if they go and take the needle towards that spectrum a bit more, since they tried the other way and didn't necessarily fail, but weren't allowed to succeed. You know what I mean? Mm. But I'm excited. I can't wait for it to pop up. Disney Plus has got me for forever. And
yeah.
This is just adding to the reasons to have it. So
it did. I mean, they hooked me with Star Wars, with The Mandalorian. They've hooked me with the tease of eventually, I guess we're going to see Marvel TV shows. We'll get there eventually.
Oh,
right. That's awesome. And now the Muppets, they've got my money. So
they've got my firstborn child. I mean,
Number 3.
Anyone who knows me personally knows that one of my all-time favorite film comedies is Bill and Ted, right?
What?
Anyone who went to high school with me or was in college heard me quote it ad nauseum. I have the first film memorized word for word, basically. My family won't even watch it with me anymore. So now here that nearly 30 years later after the sequel, we're finally getting a final installment. That is totally non-heinous, dude. Seriously, I am so stoked for this. I had to include it in the news here. It may not be the biggest news, but it's huge to me. This is a personally noteworthy news item, so you'll have to forgive me. Anyway, it was scheduled to be released in August, but now with everything going on, what is the future of Bill and Ted Face the Music? Bill S. Preston Esquire himself, Alex Winter, tweeted this, and I quote, Everything is great in BT3 land. The cut is almost done and looks fantastic. Teasers and trailers, oh, goosebumps, are ready to go. I want to see these so bad. Like every movie slated, that was me interjecting. That wasn't still Alex Winter, by the way. Okay, back to the quote. Like every movie slated for this summer, we had to stop and reorganize due to COVID. Teaser coming in a few weeks. Yes. News on release soon. All right. So that's end quote. With the release date in August and things are starting to open up back around the country, of course, there's a possibility we could see it on theaters then. But things are very much up in the air, I think, right? And if the news on release is coming soon, and that's what he said, a news on the release is coming soon, then that leads me to believe that they know something, right? They have something to announce. So that means either they're pushing the release back because they know it, or they are releasing to VOD, which a lot of people are predicting is going to happen with it because it's not one of their tentpole films that are coming out during the summer. So I'd be disappointed not to see my heroes return to the big screen in a big way, but I can't say I would be totally excited about seeing it sooner rather than later. So Chris, we'll go to you first. What do you think? Did you see Bill and Ted back in the day?
I love Bill and Ted.
Okay.
I love Bill and Ted. This is what I think. I've quoted this quite a few times. This is the season of the Keanu sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. It's breathtaking.
He's coming back.
It is. He's just seeing him. So you know what? I would be remiss if they didn't do like a meta thing while traveling.
That would be
funny.
And in
one of those realities, you see John Wick.
Oh my gosh.
That I'm like, if they nailed that one,
whoa!
I'm like, that's
angry Ted.
Yeah.
Ted, why are you so angry?
Dude.
But I would love to see that, but I can't. I would love to see that. I was waiting to see this in the films, in the movie theaters, video on demand. I'll take that, you know. But just knowing that they were able to go back and bring this back up, and it's just, you're looking at it like, that's the reboot I was waiting for. I didn't know I was waiting for
it's
that.
Not a reboot. This is actually
it's a sequel.
The sequel. Yeah,
it is a true sequel.
This is amazing.
It was the sequel I didn't know I needed. And here it is.
I've been waiting 30 years for this. I'm so excited.
I'm excited. I'm really looking forward. I wondered how it would look, especially after Keanu Reeves has had this major run.
Right.
And
didn't think he would do it.
Yeah, I was like, really? And they were like, oh, he's down. And like, they showed him no beard and no mustache. And I'm like, he actually did it.
Yes.
Yeah. It's most excellent news.
Yes,
there's nothing heinous about it at all. And, it's Jeff knows I'm a huge fan of Bill and Ted. In fact, for my high school yearbook, our principal's name was Bill. And our principal's name was Ted, and our vice principal's name was Bill. And so I made sure that we mocked up a parody movie poster as a quarter-page ad in our yearbook with them as Bill and Ted, because they were Bill and Ted for our high school.
That's great.
Anyways, it speaks volumes that Keanu Reeves, as big of a star as he's become, wanted to come back and revisit this role. And this franchise, because he didn't have to do it.
No.
I mean, he can make 10 John Wicks and I'll go see that.
Sure.
Yeah. But the fact that he went back and said, you know what? Yes, I definitely want to revisit Ted. This is a great story. They must have a great story.
Right.
The fact that, they're middle-aged and now they have to face the music, which I love. I love the title. They're bringing back Death, which I think is brilliant.
Oh, God, that's beautiful.
As long as they don't bring it back Station. Station was a little...
Okay, yes.
A little out there for me. Even for me, as big a fan as I was, I kind of got a little... I'm like, what in the world is this?
What in the world? Yes. But I'm super excited. And I read somewhere that they actually had the film in the can, so to speak, before everyone had to take this break.
Yeah.
So the film's done. It's just a matter of editing. And maybe some post-production. And so I am very excited. Now, whether it's released in the theaters or goes straight to the streaming, it doesn't matter to me. I'm going to watch it on the biggest screen I can, whether it's at the local theater or, it's over at my friend's house who projects stuff on his garage door. I don't know.
Nice.
But I'm absolutely excited to see it. Now, I know that, the fall becomes really jam-packed in terms of tent tentpole releases, because a lot of summer blockbusters have been delayed to the fall now. Mm-hmm. And so I can see them trying to decide if they're just better off and will make more money doing what Universal did with the Trolls sequel, because of, we've got a James Bond movie that's coming, we've got Black Widow that's coming, just to name two big ones off the top of my head. Right. And those are tough to compete with, especially when you've got what's relatively a small independent film in Bill and Ted 3. So, but I'm excited. I'm stoked. Can't wait.
Cool. Me too. I'm so excited. This is great. And I got to admit that I really would prefer to see it in the theater. I want it to get that kind of attention.
Get that. Yeah, sure.
And I think Universal had kind of lightning in a bottle with Trolls. I don't think that's something that you can repeat with every movie that comes out. I agree. The fact that it was a children's movie,
that helped a lot.
Went a long way towards that being the thing. Families wanting to entertain their children. I mean, I have no interest in the Trolls movie. In fact, the only reason we ended up renting it, we did the rental of it, and it was because my daughters are big fans, and I'm a fan of them too. Is the McElroy brothers? No, the McElroy brothers from My Brother and Me podcast on the Adventure Zone.
Yes,
they do a bunch of voices in it, and so. And I'm a fan of those guys too, because they're from my hometown, and I used to listen to their dad on the radio back in the day on Key FM, and he's on their show too, and so there's some nostalgia there, and so I love listening to those guys. And when we found out their voices in there, so we watched it for that reason. But man, I think I don't know what they were on when they made that movie, but I think you're supposed to be on that when you watch it as well. And we weren't. We watched it quite clean and sober, so maybe that was part of the problem. But it's a trippy movie, man. But the
first one was trippy.
It was entertaining, but I think I just got off on a tangent. But I think the fact that was a family movie really, really, and parents are like just itching for something for their kids to do.
Absolutely.
And and that's why you didn't see in the news, oh, look how well Bloodshot did, or Invisible Man, or, nobody's talking about those films because they didn't do that well.
They didn't do that well.
Exactly. I don't know how well they did, so I don't want to say that, but they're not, it's not newsworthy enough to talk about. So I don't want to see that happen to Bill and Ted. I feel like there's enough of a fan base out there that will warrant a theatrical release. So I'm hoping, even though I want to see it right now, if they pushed it out a little bit, made it a Christmas release, I'd be okay with that.
I'm not cutting my hair until I see the movie, because I'm going to cosplay Ted Theodore Roosevelt.
Roosevelt. Oh man. Okay. Then I guess that means I got to be Bill when we go see it.
Absolutely.
All right. Cool. All right. Moving on.
Number 4.
All right. Star Trek Picard aired to pretty much wide praise on CBS All Access, the streamer's new Star Trek show since they launched with Discovery, and the first one to star some of the series' most iconic characters actually played by their original actors. So that was huge. But now it looks like CBS has realized that their paid on-demand service has found a formula that worked. Keep making Star Trek shows. That's the formula. In the second season of Discovery, we finally got to see Captain Christopher Pike, captain that predated Captain Kirk. Anson Mount played him so well, and his episodes, along with Rebecca Romaine as number 1, were some of the fans' favorite episodes, and immediate cries for more Pike came from fans following those arcs. Well, CBS heard, and they're granting fans their wishes with Star Trek Strange New Worlds. The show is purported to follow the adventures of Captain Pike, Spock, and number 1 as they explore strange new worlds and seek out new life and new civilizations. I, for one, am very excited to see them boldly go. Utah, I know you are as well. Please.
I'm absolutely excited about this. With the introduction of the USS Enterprise and Pike and Spock and number 1, they, in my opinion, were the best parts of season 2 of Discovery. I found myself caring more about what was going on with the Enterprise and them than I was about Michael Burnham and the other main characters in Discovery, because I don't know, for whatever reason, they hit a nerve with me. It was very nostalgic. The relationship between the 3 of them, the chemistry between the 3 of them was great. And Anson Mount has made Captain Pike one of my favorite captains in the Star Trek universe, because his portrayal of Captain Pike was great. and then they had that little, one of my favorite, I don't know if it was a short, one of the Star Trek Discovery shorts where Spock and Number One are trapped in the turbo lift. I don't think that was part of the main series. I think that was one of the shorts they released later.
And I haven't watched those yet, so.
I think they're called short treks.
Don't spoil it. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, I should have watched it by now.
But
it's too late for me.
It was, it's just so great to see those actors work so well together. And I'm absolutely excited about this. I'm hoping that the title Strange New Worlds means that this is going to be more of the episodic kind of Star Trek show where you have each show is its own contained story versus, one of those long story arcs that goes across a whole season. Just because I think those Star Trek adventures are very episodic in nature anyway. And to see them kind of start somewhere and then have a great closure conclusion at the end of the show would be welcome, because the Star Trek shows haven't done that in a while.
Now, Chris, I know you and I talked about this a little bit, that you're more of a Star Wars guy, not that there's anything wrong with Star Trek, but that's not been your main focus, but you're starting to get into it. Is that what you?
Yeah, it's not my wheelhouse, but all the originals like Janeway and Deep Space Nine and Discovery, I've watched pieces of those, and I read an article where Simon Pegg actually said that it works better as a show, and it does. I've seen some of the movies, and I'm just one of those ones that when you have a long arc of a storyline, it just works better in an episodic feel, because when you do a movie, it's you're rushing, and sometimes you don't really get a completion. You're changing directors, the story doesn't mold as well. So when it comes to like these types of shows where they're more episodic, and like you said, Utah, it centers around the captain, and it does. And I've seen that formula on all the previous Star Trek shows where it centers around the captain and that supporting cast, which is the best formula to use. You have that one person who's kind of the lead, and there's these sidebar situations going on, but it still kind of comes together for the better whole. So yeah, I like it. I like that whole idea.
Yeah, and I read that same article with Simon Pegg. I thought that was interesting too. I mean, he wrote the last one, and to be honest, I actually loved the last one. I actually thought that was the most Star Trek-y of all of them. The new films. I felt like that felt most Star Trek to me for some reason. And even though there's goofy, motorcycle chase scene. I mean, some of it was a little out there, but just something about it. I think the way the ensemble worked together. But they've been having a real hard time getting the movies back together. And he even said with the loss of
Anton
Yelchin as Chekhov, that it's like part of your family, and it's like, can we keep doing this without that part of the family? And so I think that's part of what's kind of keeping them from moving on. And then he says maybe this is a sign. Maybe it's maybe television is where Star Trek belongs, and
right.
And I don't know that I disagree. So, or at least, I mean, I did enjoy the original movies that came out, but even those started getting old, and only every even numbered film works well, which is so weird, isn't it? Good. That's a true statement. That's a weird, true thing.
It's absolutely objective, but totally objective, and it's
so strange. But anyway, so very exciting to see a new start. And they announced actually a second show as well is coming, but they didn't give us any details on that one. But really CBS right now, I mean, they may as well just become the Star Trek network, because I was not a huge fan of the new Twilight Zone. It was just okay. Season 2.
I haven't heard a lot of noise about that one.
Yeah, season 2, I'll watch it. We'll see if it's good. I mean, I think Jordan Peele's a genius, but he's not necessarily the one making these, right? He's producing and overseeing it, but the first season just didn't do it for me at all. I think that Star Trek or CBS needs to capitalize on Star Trek. It is clearly their flagship show. It's the reason a lot of people have CBS All Access is just to watch Star Trek. It's the reason I got the first 7-day trial. So, and now I have it, again when Picard came out. So I think this is the right way for them to go.
Number 5.
The biggest story in pop culture geek news last week was the confirmation of the long-rumored and hinted at elusive Snyder Cut of Warner Brothers and DC's Justice League film. As you may remember, the film was in production when Snyder had to step aside due to a family tragedy, and Avengers director Joss Whedon was brought in to finish the film. The film, since that time, has divided fans, seemingly the majority not liking it, and thus began the fan community wondering and speculating, because that's what they do, about what Snyder would have done had he finished it himself. Well, now they have officially confirmed that WB will be spending, reports say, anywhere from $20 to $30 million to allow Snyder to basically finish the film, and it will premiere on the new HBO Max streaming service. Now, just how that comes about, still uncertain. Snyder has said that he estimates the original film is only about a fourth of what he filmed, which is funny because he says he's never seen the original one. So I don't know how he knows that. He says he's quick to then say it's because people have told him what was in the other one. He claims to have never seen the Joss Whedon. I can't imagine why that would be the case, but
it doesn't make sense.
But maybe he didn't. I don't know. Anyway, but he's saying it's likely to be more than 4 hours long and may even be released in 6 episodes instead of a film. So more to come on that, still in flux. But the real news, gentlemen, is that the speculation is over. And God help us, the hashtag is finally over. Snyder Cut is real and it's coming. Chris, your thoughts?
I am one of the ones who had great hopes for this Justice League movie when it first was released. It was the return of Ben Affleck, who redeemed himself in my eyes as being Batman. He was actually pretty good.
I agree.
And there had been rumor, or as most films, there's always more film to edit that's on the cutting room floor. I've heard this too. I heard this as well about Justice League having like at least 4 hours of footage, and there's a mention of Darkseid. There's a mention of Martian Manhunter even showing up, who was played by the general who was in Man of Steel and Justice League. And even in the movie theaters, and I've seen it twice because I see every film more than once in the movie theater. And even the scene they show where it was the Amazons, the Atlanteans, the humans, and just various gods and everything else, and they show a Green Lantern, I was like, I want more of that scene, and they didn't show anything. And I'm like, there's got to be more to it, So hearing that this is finally going to HBO Max and we're getting a Snyder Cut that even Jason Momoa kind of said way back that this thing existed, I want to see what that is. There was so many conflicting reports. Superman's not in the black outfit, but then there's a clip that shows the black outfit like encased in ice, and then you're just like, well, somebody's not telling the truth here, and who knows what. And I'm just waiting to see what they do with it and try to finish it and release that. There's talks of, will this be the reemergence of the DCU? Who knows? Because as of late, beyond Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Shazam, they've kind of been dropping the balls here, and they just can't seem to catch their footing. I said it when they first started. Man of Steel, to my opinion, Man of Steel was actually really good. Batman versus Superman should have just been that. It shouldn't have been the introduction of the Justice League. It was shoehorned in. It was Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 3 all over again. Yeah. So seeing the film and then watching it on cable, it gives me, looking at it in a different light, saying that man, their CGI was horrible. It was like Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern bad. I'm like, you come too, and that was 10 years prior.
Sure,
you've come too long to have Cyborg look like that. It was just really,
or Steppenwolf.
Oh God,
yeah. I mean, that final battle was basically a video game cutscene. I mean, I've seen better CGI in video game cutscenes. That was like PlayStation 2. All right, that's an exaggeration, but Utah, what do you think? What do you think?
Okay, so I agree with a lot of what Chris has said. I do think Ben Affleck got a bad rap. I thought his Batman was pretty good. I thought Man of Steel was better than I think what a lot of people thought. I wanted Justice League to be good. I'm a huge Marvel fanboy. I have been since I was a kid. But, DC's success means more success for comic book movies in general, which means Marvel has to up their game, which means better Marvel movies, which means who knows what other comic book movies will come out. But, success for everybody in the comic book superhero movie genre is good for us fans.
Right.
So I wanted Justice League to succeed. I was very disappointed with Justice League. And the news that Zack Snyder has got a whole other movie's worth of footage that he didn't use, that wasn't used. Like, what is he filming? Like, what directors have another 2.5, 3 hours worth of stuff that they filmed that they either didn't plan on using or wasn't used? So that kind of boggles my mind. For me, Zack Snyder is kind of an interesting conundrum because there are some things that I like that he's done. I thought 300 was fantastic. I thought Watchmen was fantastic. I thought, what's that one? Was it Sucker Punch, yeah. Sucker Punch. I thought that was horrible. But
visually beautiful, though.
But yes, and that's the thing. For me, Zack Snyder is great at taking comic book panel type or scenes or just little snippets and making an incredible looking picture. But in terms of making a whole film, that's where I feel like his skills start kind of falling off. And that's what I felt like with Justice League, even with Joss Whedon coming in and, playing around with stuff. But Batman versus Superman could have been a lot better. There are a lot of parts that I just thought looked really good, but as a whole, I just couldn't suspend my disbelief enough. So, am I excited? I wouldn't say I'm excited. Am I going to watch it? However it comes out, whether it becomes a Lord of the Rings type of movie or, a 6 episode season on HBO Max. I don't know, but I'm curious to see it, but I'm not expecting it to be some kind of revelation of, oh, this is what Justice League should have been, and the DC cinematic universe is going to come back, and now let's make all these interconnected movies now. I think DC's gone too far forward with what they're doing now with Joker, Wonder Woman, Shazam, Aquaman to come back to it. So not excited, but I'll watch it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I feel too. I personally, I'm with both of you guys. I actually enjoyed Man of Steel. I actually enjoyed the part everyone hates, which is at the end when he kills Zod. Everyone said that's not Superman. I'm like, but why not?
That's
why
the point of the movie.
I'm like, yeah. To me,
that's what made him.
One of the reasons I've never been a fan of Superman was that he's just the Boy Scout. Like, there's nothing compelling about him as a character.
He's very one note.
Now, if I know that he went so far as to kill this guy on his first major outing as a superhero, and that it had an effect on him that made him into the Boy Scout that he became, but that turned the world for a moment, and especially Batman, against him, that's perfect, right? Like, he can take that moment and become the Boy Scout now. To me, for him to just be the Boy Scout, I know Pa Kent taught him all this great stuff and was a great father and blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, come on, Superman's got to have some sort of compelling character nature or some sort of flaw that he's fighting. And for me now, I am so powerful that I can kill this ultra powerful bad guy. Then I need to be careful. Like, I have to control that part of me because I don't want to be that guy. And to me, that gives him a compelling point. Depth. So I thought Man of Steel, I liked it for that reason. And then I think introducing Doomsday. Introducing Doomsday this early, I think was a mistake because that was something that we should have built up to. And then, like you said, turning it into Justice League right away, basically trying to start with an Avengers film, I think was kind of a mess. But that being said, I actually didn't hate Justice League as much as I hated Batman versus Superman, which is, I really didn't. But I already said what I didn't like about it, right? The CGI is terrible. It's a cartoon basically for the last half of the movie. And I felt like, again, they wasted Superman. They wasted all the characters, really were kind of wasted, and the CGI was not great. So I'm very interested in this. Again, more than anything, I'm just glad that this whole rumor and hashtag and all this stuff is just finally over, and we've got it, and it's like, let's see what it is, and it'll either be great or it'll suck, and everyone can find, but at least everyone can finally get a consensus on it and be done with it. So yeah, I'm looking. I will say that the standout points in Justice League for me were
Aquaman's surfboarding. One of the, for some reason that stands out to me.
It was so bad though. The CGI
it was so bad.
It was Legolas sliding down the elephant's trunk bad.
Yes, that's what it was.
That's how bad it was. Both of those are bad.
Exactly. It was I wasn't expecting that, but
it was funny. It was a good one.
Yeah, it was funny. That was funny. And then the scene where they bring Clark back and he's facing off with everybody, and Batman gets kind of like the worst of it. You know, he's like, I'm bleeding a little bit. You know, It was just like, okay, you made a joke, Batman, which is not my Batman I think of, but that's okay. And then when you finally hear Cyborg say "Booyah,"
yes, that was good.
I was like, oh,
that was kind of fun.
Okay, they gave me that.
That was kind of fun.
You know,
right? They had to put something in, right? I mean,
All right, good talk.
Wonder Woman's the sidebar saying, "Good Lord, I'm working with a bunch of kids."
That's pretty much it. Much it.
All right, that's 5 things you should know from last week. We've still got another conversation ahead, including trying to make sense of what going to the movies might even look like post COVID-19. Stay with us. We'll be back after this. What am I talking about? This is our first episode. We don't have any sponsors, but if we did, this is where we would go. We could have sponsors. If you're listening to this and you have a product or service that you think a bunch of geeks and pop culture nerds would benefit from, I'd love to tell folks about it. So drop me a line at jeff@worldgonegeek.com. Let's talk. But since there's no sponsors, let's just move on. What do you say, guys? So our main topic this week, something I think is really, and we've kind of touched on it already a little bit, but I want to start with some interesting news from across the pond. So Shakespeare's Globe Theater, right? This is the theater Shakespeare actually did plays on back in the day, and they restored it about 27 years ago and opened it back up to the public and started doing plays there again, which how cool would that be, right? To see a Shakespeare play at the Globe Theater. Well, right now, they're possibly going to be closing for good again. And so unless they can get over £5 million, that's about $6 million to you and me.
That's heavy.
In government funding to stay open. But here's the tick. Free live streams of their film productions have been doing quite well online, which means folks want to see this stuff. But will they be, when people are able to go back to the theaters, will they go back once they're permitted again? That's the question, right? And it's not just with this classic theater, but with cinema as well. Even before COVID, AMC was already working through bankruptcy, and Regal's parent company warned stockholders that a potential shutdown could make them default on loans, and Cinemark was only barely faring better than them through all of this. And now, after releasing Trolls World Tour, we talked about it earlier, Universal Pictures is thinking about using that model ongoing, which has AMC and Regal up in arms and vowing not to show Universal Pictures in theaters at all if this actually happens. And that's even if they open up again at all. So the question is, what do you guys think? This is, I mean, going to the movies is going to be a whole new ballgame. If they opened up theaters, let's say next month, and we're showing, let's say, Black Widow or Mulan or one of these big tent poles that was supposed to come out, would you go to the theater?
That's a tough question. In a month, I don't know. It is really difficult, I think, because any time you've got large numbers of people now in an enclosed space, you've got risks because we don't know everything going on with this virus, and we're still learning stuff, right? So there may come a time, say in a month, where they come out and say, "Hey, we've done the research, and it's not nearly as contagious as we thought," and following these certain guidelines, social distancing, but maybe you don't need a mask this time. Then that could change things. I don't know. I myself probably wouldn't feel comfortable going into a movie theater for a while. I wouldn't say within a month, based on current knowledge. And the fact that those large chains, the large chain theaters, were already on shaky ground financially, is really scary, because every time I've gone to the movie theaters, I've always gone to the Cinemark, and they've always been packed with people, and those people that are packed in there are overpaying grossly for all the food and whatever else that's there. So it boggles my mind that Cinemark would be on such shaky financial ground to be in so much debt when they're charging so much, and there's so many customers and they're being so successful. What I really feel bad for are the small independent theaters, like the Alamo in Texas or the Cedar Lee here locally, where they're the ones that aren't getting the huge tentpole movies, but they're getting really great independent films or foreign films. And it's got to be even tougher for them because they're not getting the huge license, they're not getting the huge movies and the revenue. Now, granted, the big chains aren't getting they're getting the revenue, but they owe so much they're not keeping it. But I don't know. I find it interesting that the theaters are in such dire straits. I also find it interesting that I saw somewhere that Amazon and Netflix are both looking into buying theaters, if not chains. Well, Netflix already owns a theater. Netflix already owns the Paris Theater in Manhattan. So they already have a theater where they can release and show their stuff.
Right.
If Amazon bought AMC, I don't know. That'd be weird. That'd be like a studio buying a theater chain.
That's exactly what it is. In fact, that's something that's brand new. In fact, back in 1948, the studios tried to do that, the big studios, and the antitrust, they put together, what are they called? The Paramount Decrees, which is the Department of Justice and the antitrust put it together, so it broke it up. It would be like a monopoly, a studio owning the theaters, meaning Paramount would only show Paramount, Sony would only show Sony. If you lived in a place where that didn't happen, and so these theaters, being independent allows them to show whatever, right? And show any films that come out. And last year, the Department of Justice, they nixed that. It's gone. This been around since 1948.
Wow.
And it's no longer a thing, which is why Netflix is able to do that, and which is why Amazon is now courting AMC. It could be, and now with, again, AMC in bankruptcy, I mean, Bezos has enough money to buy whatever he wants. So if he wants AMC, he's got it, right? And the only thing that would be standing in his way is a studio owning, and so I either some sort of government, oversight will probably come in where, yes, you can own it, but you have to be open to at least 35% other I don't know, something will have to, I don't know what they'll do, but they'll figure something out. I hope, because it's going to be a whole different world when that happens. But the big thing I think is Universal with the video on demand thinking, well, we're just going to start releasing movies both in theater and on demand at the same time. Chris, what do you think about that? What do you think, is that going to change things? Obviously AMC and Regal are like, that doesn't work for us, because right now they have agreements that where there's a space of time, right? So they have a window to make some money before people can watch it at home. Chris, what do you think? How do you think that's going to change the way we go to movies?
Well, see, I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago on my podcast, and I said, hopefully they would turn around now. Well, like Utah said, I wouldn't go to a movie theater within the next month with current knowledge being known right now. It's just too risky. But when you have like Universal, I'll take Universal for an example. They're saying, hey, we'll go both ends. At some point, some people were saying, well, they're just going to drop all their movies on demand. I'm like, I seriously doubt that the latest Fast and Furious franchise film is going to be on video on demand. Will people buy it? Of course, but they want to make that big money, so they'll probably drop it in both formats. And I can see them doing that, but in a limited setting. As far as the future of film, I don't think it's the end of theaters. It's definitely not the end of drive-in movie theaters. They may make a resurgence. This will be their greatest moment to say, hey, we can show everything, and social distancing, we were already doing that.
Right.
So like, we're paying by the carload. You're showing you can see 4 movies at a time, so you're fine. But drive-in theaters, I think they'll be okay. They're already kind of repurposing them for other things anyway, on top of showing movies. So theaters it's going to be, I don't think it's the end. I think it's just going to take a while for people to come around. You know, I think by fall they might be okay, you know, depending on how everything goes. I believe they'll be okay unless they end up like the beachgoers in Florida and California and decide to pile in all at once.
Do you think we'll start to see drive-in theaters reopen, or some of this unclaimed land or whatever, some of these places where I mean, look at here locally over in Garfield Heights, they got that whole shopping center there where nothing's going on. You could build a drive-in theater there. Can you imagine? Right up there on the hill. Spot. People are driving over the bridge. You could see the screen. It'll be huge advertising. Do you think that's a thing that, I mean, is that something that's going to see a revival? Like we'll actually see people building them, not just that the old ones
making them
used.
making them a little closer. Yeah, I think so. I think if they could get away with, you know, because you only have that certain amount of time in every year during the seasons. It's like near the end of spring, going right into summer, and then they rock those next 3 months out, you know, doing their films. I can see drive-in theaters saying, hey, we might have a way to build more movie theaters or drive-in movie theaters and have them more local, because what we have, the Magic and Blue Sky, they're kind of ways out, you know, and people, and I think they just started, and I think like maybe a week or so ago, like whatever they had, they were sold out because it was so many people that wanted to get out and still that have that experience. I'm one of those people that like going to the movie. I'm a film buff.
Yep.
So going out and having that experience and being there, I can see people doing that because it's like, hey, we're getting out the house, we're practicing social distancing, and it's actually, you know, affordable, you know, compared to the movie theater where they're, you know, and like I said on my podcast, you have a family of 5, you're probably looking at spending close to $50 to $70 on tickets alone.
That's true.
You know, so we're not even talking the concession stand, you know.
Well, there's no question we're entering a whole new world of going to the movies. COVID has definitely changed. It's going to change a lot of things in society. Going to movies is just one aspect, I think. So we have a lot to get used to. All right. So thanks that was a great conversation, guys. It's time now where we turn the show and attention on to some of our listeners.
It's time for the 90-second Geek Rant.
Obviously, we just started, so we don't have, you're for listening, you're a listener. So thank you for listening. We appreciate that.
I'm listening.
But this is thank you, Utah. I appreciate that. I'm glad that since I invited you here, that you're paying attention. I appreciate that. But this is a part of the show we call the 90-second Geek Rant. So this is a part we want you, the listeners, to be a part of our show. We want to hear from you. You've heard us pontificate for almost an hour now on all these things. We want to know what you're thinking. What's stuff that has got you up in arms, or maybe something that you're really excited about that's happening, or something that you want to share, or you read something online, you want to rebut it. We want to give you a voice to do that. And you can do that by going to speakpipe.com/World Gone Geek. You'll have 90 seconds to get out whatever's on your chest. Hopefully we'll use some of your recordings on the show. Now, hopefully we'll have a week to gather some more. So if you're out there and you're listening to this, we want to hear from you. We want to feature you on the show. We just want to hear us talking all the time. Of course, we'll hear you and then we'll keep talking because that's what we do. But we do want to hear from you. I just want to make this as interactive as possible. So speakpipe.com/World Gone Geek. Leave your 90-second Geek Rant and you could be featured on a future episode of the podcast. And that's it for our show today, guys. I really want to thank Utah for being here today. Utah, who has a YouTube channel. You want to tell us a little bit about it real quick as we wrap up here? Just a quick brief.
Sure, yeah. So it's Utah and the Uke. It's something that my family put together for me because during the pandemic, in order to keep my sanity, I've been doing a ukulele cover of a song every day. And it just so happened that other people find it entertaining for whatever reason. So yeah, Utah and the Uke on YouTube, Co-Utah on all the other social media platforms, KOHYUTA.
Very cool. And Chris G, thanks so much for being on the show. And again, you want to give a plug to your podcast, let people know where to find you and what you guys talk about?
Yeah, we have my podcast is Blurred's Eye View. We talk about pulp culture, comics, TV, and film. You can find us on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you have a podcast to listen to, and you can actually find us on YouTube as well. and Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. And thanks again, guys. Really appreciate you guys being here with us tonight. This has been the very first episode of The Podcast is Real. Again, I am Jeff, aka Grounded Geek. Make sure to check out our website, www.worldgonegeek.com. We're also on Facebook at /WorldGoneGeek and on Twitter at WorldGoneGeek, and basically just lots of World Gone Geek stuff. So check us out on there. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great time and geek hard or go home.
The Podcast is Real is hosted by Jeffrey Ford and produced by Jeffrey Ford. The Podcast is Real is a World Gone Geek production.